we're um, seeing it evolve. And I think that also lays, kind of the foundation of where's all this going, right? And it leads to another article that I found, I think, from a venture capital firm called Emergence. I think that's what their venture
Yes.
investment group of some sort. And they wrote an article about the AI plateau is real, and this is the next breakthrough. And we've been talking a lot about some of the challenges with GenAI and transformer-based models and LLMs. And we talked a lot about the next to break through this data plateau um, is going to require things like vision and audio and other modalities of context. And what's interesting is their whole premise is that the actual untapped space to generate this value is enterprise-based text, right? I.e., the contracts and on all the sort of proprietary internal enterprise data that is going to allow these models to sort of go to the next level. And I think it's interesting because if you look at the landscape, not to pick on Microsoft, but you go back and look at the Copilot, they're not trying to do any of that, right? This is really homogenized, generic sort of stuff. And secondly, you have a whole host of companies all going out of their way to say, we're not going to vacuum up your proprietary enterprise data. And so, part of the last, and I'm really curious your take on this particular article because it's really long and sort of in depth, but they're basically where they sort of landed is that this next whatever evolution is actually going to take place within the enterprise because the enterprise has to own the model, own the data to make this work. And that sort of goes back to what we're talking about. It's like, where is this value realization going to come from? So what was your take on that particular perspective?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. A couple things got my attention here. First, that Emergence Capital, they invested in Zoom. They're very deep into collaboration as a topic of investment. And so they have to have models that they can trust because the models that they are looking at are specifically to support the future of work and actual, we just dinged productivity, but they are trying to figure out what actually makes people more productive at the end of the day and they have gone pretty deeply into those solutions in their investment portfolio. So they have to care about not just what is the data, but what can you do with the data afterwards. Because they are going to be dealing with the Zoom-like or Slack-like or contact center-like outcomes, and they need to make those better or else they are not going to make money. So I thought that it was interesting to see their approach of being able to not just figure out which data to use, but how to then contextualize that data and put that into some sort of workflow or process or activity that is core to the business. I thought that approach was good because it at least provides a level of maturity. And then Emergence Capital also pointed out that the AI itself will become commoditized over time. They called it S curves. In business school, we talk about these innovation cycles as well. So, whatever you want to call it, whether it's S curves or the Schumpeter innovation cycle, we are going to see these waves that occur where each wave goes, could be 12, 18, 24, 36 months. But eventually, everything we think is really amazing now is just going to be standard, just as you were saying about Microsoft having to accept that AI is going to be the help function and not an add-on that is going to be driving a lot of revenue over the long run.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. I love folks like this that are obviously way smarter than me, and sort of them publishing the way they think about things. And I think that's really what's important is it's how they're thinking about this, and they identify these sort of 4 opportunities of where to go next and how to harness this enterprise data. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but what struck me is that it's really about specialized knowledge. So they have 4, I'll just list them. They have 4 categories, I guess, of solving the plateau, these opportunities. They say one is to engage experts. second is to leverage latent data. The third is to capture in context. And the fourth is to secure the secret sauce. So how do you take advantage of this evolution of where this is going? But if I translate that, right, it's about harnessing the data, identifying the context of that data and applying that context so that we can create value from it, having specific domain expertise. And the last, of course, is this idea of securing it. And what's really, really fascinating to me is that they list a whole bunch of companies. And I mean, I'm hoping they're not, these are all companies they've invested in, but they list all these companies. And what is really notable is how few of these I'd even heard of, right? There's this whole host of companies that are sort of operating below the radar as sort of what they're saying is part of this next wave. And so, again, I look at this, what is CIO's perspective is that we need to not spend all of our energy focusing on the Anthropics and the OpenAIs and then fighting these big giant wars on big massive LLMs, and instead be really focusing on how you're going to apply this, how you're going to leverage this to create value, and how you're going to harness your own data in a way to combine with all of this, going all the way back to the Gartner thing a minute ago, is you need to break that cycle. And I'm not the POC part of it necessarily, but if you're going to be having those kind of costs, if those costs are real, then the only way you're going to have any chance of justifying them is by having this sort of value creation model, because it's being leveraging in concert with your proprietary data. And so I love these sort of points of view, because they just cause me to kind of step back and question some of my own paradigms.
Yeah. And it seems that although something like ChatGPT is obviously extremely popular, it hasn't completely become ubiquitous in the way that AI would need to be to live up to the hype.